On to Thou Shalt Not Question the Agile Manifesto. It is story time. So we've got a lovely tweet here that talks about homosexuality being forbidden in the Bible. And just like poly and cotton sock blends are, and Leviticus 19:19, you shall not wear a garment upon you of two kinds of materials mixed together. Now, when they start protesting that socks, start protesting about socks as much as they do about gays, I'll accept that it's for religious reasons. Now, a question to you. Do any of you actually honestly not wear mixed fabric garments? I know I don't, otherwise I'd be naked in front of you right now. But this is an example of religious dogmatism that we've learned from over the years. We no longer apply something that was accepted knowledge years and years ago. And yet, out there in the industry right now, there are people who will say, if you aren't doing this in Scrum, you're not doing Scrum. If you're not doing this in Agile, you're doing it wrong. How many of you have experienced that sort of dogmatism? Lots.
I once ran a retrospective as a product owner, and it was very successful, and the team got a lot out of it, and they did a lot in terms of productivity and trust building. However, the fellow more senior product owner who was in there observing took me aside afterwards and told me that product owners don't run retrospectives, and I should never have done it, and it was a terrible idea, and it was a big risk, and I should get back in my box, basically. So yeah, I can say that I've definitely experienced the religious dogmatism aspect of that.
It is. It's so prevalent, especially when you've got well, someone's mentioned safe in there. But a story from me. So I once worked in a large consultancy, and I won't divulge who, but there was a community of practice that I was actively part of. Fellow practitioners and I would meet on every few weeks to share war stories, experiment with new techniques, learn and share with one another. And I would regularly hear from this group how they lament the current state of Agile. They didn't like the fact that someone would complete a 2-day course and call themselves a Scrum Master. They would suggest that this wasn't good enough and that they were devaluing their profession. And the challenge with that is that, for me, that's just people looking to advance themselves. And to be honest, I've been guilty of this as well. I've referenced similar situations. I've complained to other practitioners about things not being good enough, something not being agile enough. But I guess the challenge here is where's the empathy in that? Rather than just saying and complaining about it, why don't you speak to that person and say, well, actually, here's an alternative, or have you considered this? Or maybe you might want to do this. When someone new to the profession calls himself a Scrum Master or an Agile coach, maybe a little bit prematurely now, I'll speak to them and say, right, what are you currently doing to learn further? Have you joined this community of practice? Have you got a mentor yet? I tend to approach it with that sort of vein rather than a judgmental view. I think the problem is that the manifesto itself has become this unquestionable document, this holy writ. And there's a lot of people talking about, doing Agile and being Agile. There's a lot of people talking about how bad Agile is, but not taking any action. They're just talking about it and complaining about it, but not necessarily doing anything with it. Now, I think for me, this is basically falling foul of Einstein's definition of insanity here. Insanity is the same thing, doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. If we're seeing in the industry this happening and happening and happening, we're not doing anything to change it. Not taking an action is in itself a decision, and we are dooming ourselves to for that reality to remain that way if we don't change a variable in that. Yeah, and I appreciate it might be, there's a great point by Steve Young here. It may be a society thing. It may be an evolutionary thing, but we're basically fighting millions of years of evolution, biological imperatives that tell us we want homeostasis. We want things to stay the same. We don't want to change. We're fighting evolution here, but the only way you can do that is by continuously reinforcing good habits. Having a culture where people can challenge one another, where they feel safe to change without fear of judgment and that sort of thing.